Tonight, we wander through the quiet world of hidden moons, those gentle companions drifting far beyond the bright glow of planets, moving through cold, slow arcs of ancient time. Let this soft journey rest lightly on your mind, like a low tide settling against a silent shore. Far from the busy noise of daylight, these forgotten moons drift in peaceful darkness, held by gravity's patient hands. Each one carries a small story, written in frost, stone, and distant sunlight, waiting for us to read it with calm attention. If this slow journey brought a touch of serenity to your night, you're welcome to like, subscribe, and share. A soft thought can guide another wandering soul toward this quiet light. Let your mind settle for a moment. Take a slow breath and feel the gentle stillness gather around you. As we drift deeper into tonight's quiet path, the hidden moons begin to glow, dimly, softly, like lanterns floating in deep water. Some moons are smaller than cities, quiet shards of rock that orbit unnoticed. They follow slow paths around great worlds, moving through shadows cast by rings and dust. And in their silence, you can almost hear the soft turning of space itself. Others are vast icy spheres, holding oceans beneath frozen crusts. Their surfaces are calm and pale, but under the stillness, warm tides shift with ancient patience. In that hidden motion, a quiet sense of possibility hums. Every moon reflects sunlight at its own pace. Some shine sharply, while others scatter the light into a dreamy glow, soft as a candle behind frosted glass. And in that gentle reflection, you may feel your thoughts slowing, finding room to breathe.
The smallest moons often whisper the oldest stories. They carry the marks of countless impacts, each crater a memory pressed gently into stone. Their surfaces never rush, never heal quickly, but simply keep the imprint of time as softly as dust holding a footprint. Gravity tugs on them with a quiet rhythm, not too strong, not too weak, just enough to guide their drifting steps around the worlds they follow. And in that steady motion, something peaceful emerges, like the slow swing of a lantern in a calm night. Some moons travel in clusters, little families of rock and ice, each one circling the other in a slow, patient dance. Their paths weave gently, never hurried, always respectful of the space between them. It is a harmony shaped over eons, soft and balanced, like breath moving through still air. A few moons wander backwards, circling in retrograde arcs against the spin of their planets. They drift like quiet rebels, carrying secrets of captured origins. Scientists believe many of them once roamed freely through the early solar system before settling into the calm embrace of a new world's gravity. And in that drifting capture, a subtle sense of longing remains, as if they remember a more open sky. Others hover near rings of dust, moving close to shimmering arcs of ice. With each slow orbit, they sculpt the rings gently, nudging particles into thin paths that glisten like soft threads of light. Their presence is quiet but shaping, a reminder that even the smallest companion can guide a vast and delicate structure.
Some moons are warm beneath their cold surfaces. Deep inside, tidal forces stretch their cores with a slow, pulsing motion. This gentle heating melts hidden layers, creating oceans sealed beneath crystal crusts. And in those shadowed waters, the possibilities drift quietly like lanterns under distant ice. Europa, smooth as frosted glass, holds an ocean wider than Earth's. Its cracked surface whispers of shifting tides and drifting currents. Each line is a soft reminder that even in deep cold, motion continues, patient and unhurried. Enceladus breathes through icy plumes, sending gentle fountains of vapor into Saturn's pale light. The spray drifts upward, glimmering like snow in moonlit air. Scientists trace the plumes to a warm ocean below, a place where minerals swirl with a slow, dreamlike rhythm. It is a quiet world, yet full of calm potential. Io, bright and restless, moves differently. Its volcanic surface shifts with constant glowing change. But even its fiery nature follows a steady pattern, like a heartbeat held within stone. The heat rises, the surface opens, and the world reshapes itself in long, patient cycles. Between these moons, space stretches softly, filled with dust, faint light, and the gentle pull of gravity. Nothing is rushed, nothing is loud. The universe moves with a slow and comforting certainty. Far beyond the giant planets, smaller, quieter moons linger in deep cold. They circle distant dwarf planets, where sunlight arrives only as a pale whisper. Yet even in that dimness, their surfaces keep a soft glow, like stones resting under winter skies. Pluto's moon Charon moves in locked harmony with its companion. Both bodies face each other always, spinning together with the same calm rhythm. Their shared orbit feels like a slow conversation, held gently across billions of years. Other distant moons are shaped by ice so soft it behaves like stone in slow motion. Mountains rise slowly, valleys drift outward, and the landscape changes in cycles too long to witness. But the stillness itself brings a sense of reassurance, as if time stretches into a quiet, unbroken thread. Some moons remain no more than guesses, tiny shadows in telescope images, hints carved from faint movements of light. Scientists watch these delicate signals, studying each flicker, each gentle shift. From these soft clues, new worlds are revealed, not loudly, but with the calm certainty of dawn touching a horizon. Even farther out, in the Kuiper Belt's deep silence, moonlets drift around icy bodies that barely glow at all. Their orbits form simple loops, undisturbed, left to follow patient cycles unseen by any nearby world. And in their unhurried motion, a deeper quiet emerges, a reminder of how vast, how gentle the outer darkness can be.
Many hidden moons began as wandering rocks, stray travelers shaped by early collisions. Over ages, gravity gathered them, offering gentle paths around larger worlds. They settled into slow orbits, finding a new sense of belonging in the steady pull of familiar gravity. Their surfaces are mosaics of memory. Impact basins form soft depressions, faint scars from ancient storms of debris. Ridges stretch like quiet shorelines, marking frozen flows and cooling rock. Every feature reflects a long history, written without rush, preserved in the unchanging cold. Some moons guide the orbits of others, acting as shepherds. They keep rings smooth, sweeping stray particles aside with soft gravitational nudges. Their influence is subtle, barely noticeable at first, yet over time they sculpt entire structures with the gentlest of motions. Others drift so close to their planets that tidal forces reshape them into stretched oval forms. Their bodies flex slowly, following the rhythm of each passing orbit. In that repeated motion, heat stirs within them, warming their interiors just enough to shift the ice, like a quiet breath moving beneath a blanket. And some moons linger alone on distant, elongated orbits. They sweep through cold space, spending most of their time far from the warmth of their parent planet. Their long journeys remind us that even the smallest world can move with dignity through darkness, carrying its own quiet light. Some hidden moons move through regions shaped by ancient collisions. Long ago, wandering bodies struck the giant planet's early systems, sending fragments drifting outward like soft embers in a cooling fire. Over time, these fragments slowed, settled, and found calm circular paths around the worlds that once scattered them. In their quiet return, there is a sense of balance restored, a pattern made whole again. A few moons hold curious colors: amber, slate gray, pale blue, tints formed by minerals, ice, and slow chemical changes. These hues don't flash or glitter. They simply rest on the surface, soft as pastels brushed over old stone. When light touches them, it spreads gently, glowing like dusk on a still lake. Some moons are threaded with canyons. Slow fractures opened their crusts, guided by the careful pull of tidal forces. Over ages, the rifts widened, filled with frost, and settled into quiet stability. Seen from above, they resemble soft wrinkles in cloth, folds left undisturbed for eons. Other moons cradle long, frozen plains. Not much stirs on these surfaces. No wind, no snow, no rushing storms. Only silence and the patient gleam of distant sunlight. Their stillness is complete, comforting, like the hush of a winter morning before the world wakes. Some moons lie so close to ring systems that their shadows drift across glowing arcs of dust. These shadows move slowly, stretching and shrinking as each orbit carries the moon through its gentle path. The faint darkening of the rings is barely noticeable, yet it marks the moon's presence in the softest possible way, a quiet footprint in a shifting trail of light. In all these silent movements, there is a sense of cosmic patience, a reminder that even small worlds follow timeless rhythms, steady as breath in the dark.
Some moons share orbits with delicate arcs of dust, forming faint, whisper-thin ringlets that shimmer when sunbeams strike them. These narrow trails appear almost invisible, yet they trace the moon's journey like soft threads woven through the darkness. Scientists believe these ringlets are created by subtle impacts, tiny grains lifted from the moon's surface, rising into space with the gentlest release. A few moons drift in pairs, locked together by quiet gravity. They dance through space like two lanterns floating on calm water, always turning, always adjusting, yet never breaking their shared path. This bond is delicate, but incredibly stable, a slow duet written in ancient motion. Other moons move in resonance, completing their orbits in simple numerical patterns. One may circle its planet twice for every orbit of its neighbor. This gentle coordination keeps their paths harmonious, preventing collisions, preserving balance. Even in silence, these rhythms feel musical, a cosmic lullaby held in celestial time. Some moons create gentle waves in the rings they pass through. Their gravity pulls soft ripples into the icy arcs, and though the waves move slowly, they travel long distances, carrying the moon's quiet influence far from its position. It is a reminder that even the smallest presence can send calm echoes through a much larger world. A few tiny moonlets orbit near the edges of rings, keeping their borders sharp and clear. Without them, the rings would blur and spread, losing their delicate patterns. But these small companions maintain order with patient guidance, holding the structure together in a way almost imperceptible, yet deeply important. And as they drift through their cycles, their gentle contributions bring a peaceful symmetry to the vastness around them. Some moons form gentle halos of dust that follow them like faint, shimmering veils. These halos appear only in certain light, glowing softly when sunlight bends through the delicate grains. To distant observers, they look like pale auras, hovering around small, quiet worlds that drift without hurry. A few moons move through magnetic fields that wrap around their planets. Particles swirl near their surfaces, guided by invisible lines of force. Sometimes these interactions create glows, silky, luminous arcs that flicker like slow-motion auroras in the cold outer dark. Other moons are shaped by cryovolcanism. Instead of molten rock, they release slurries of water and ammonia, which rise gently through cracks before settling as frost. These eruptions are not violent. They unfold slowly, more like warm breaths than sudden bursts. Layer by layer, the surface renews itself with quiet patience. Some moons carry ancient fractures that stretch for hundreds of miles. These lines formed when the moon's crust cooled and settled, shrinking just enough to create long, soft breaks. Though they seem dramatic from afar, they remain completely still,
untouched by weather or wind, resting like calm rivers frozen in time. A few moons drift so far from their planets that their orbits take weeks, sometimes months, to complete. During these long circuits, they spend most of their time wandering in deep shadow, feeling only faint warmth from the sun's distant glow. Yet, even in this darkness, their surfaces gleam gently, reflecting whatever light reaches them. A quiet resilience in the vast, cold night. Some moons have surfaces made of material so dark they absorb nearly all the sunlight. They appear like soft silhouettes, moving through space with quiet dignity, shining not by brightness, but by presence alone.
Some moons orbit in tilted paths, rising above and dipping below the main plane of their planet's rings. During each slow cycle, they weave through different angles of light, catching glimmers one moment and sinking into shadow the next. This gentle shifting gives their surfaces a dreamy, muted glow, as if they drift between day and night with each passing hour. A few moons are protected by thick layers of dust and ice that gather on their surfaces over millions of years. These blankets soften their features, rounding edges, hiding sharp lines, and creating landscapes that look brushed smooth by time's long hand. Nothing harsh remains, only quiet curves and muted textures. Some moons move so slowly that their rotation matches their orbit, keeping one face turned toward their planet forever. This locked side glows gently in reflected light, while the far side rests in almost continuous darkness. Yet both halves share the same calm silence, a balance held by gravity's patient pull. Other moons are remnants of once larger worlds, pieces left behind after ancient impacts. What remains drifts peacefully now, far removed from the violence that shaped it. Their surfaces may hold clues to earlier ages, but the worlds themselves have settled into deep stillness, their past turbulence softened by time. A few moons lie so close to their planets that tidal forces reshape their orbits bit by bit. Their paths shift slowly, like a gentle spiral tightening or relaxing over ages. These motions are too gradual to notice in a single lifetime, yet over long eras they draw elegant patterns through the dark. And through every subtle change, each moon keeps its place in the quiet choreography of the solar system. Some moons create trails of charged particles as they interact with magnetic fields. These trails drift outward, forming faint ghost-like ribbons that fade slowly into space. They are almost invisible, but in the right light, they shimmer like soft breaths released into the void. A few moons are touched by micrometeorites every day, tiny grains striking their surfaces with gentle taps. These impacts lift dust, reshaping the outer layers grain by grain. The process is delicate, almost soothing, like a slow snowfall in reverse. Other moons sit at gravitational balance points, places where forces cancel out with perfect softness. There, they drift with little change, held steady
by a quiet equilibrium. It is a peaceful location, safe from strong tugs or sudden shifts, a cosmic resting place in the middle of vast motion. Some moons reflect sunlight with surprising brightness. Their icy surfaces scatter light into soft halos that glow even in deep shadow. This gentle radiance helps reveal features that would otherwise remain hidden: low ridges, subtle planes, and delicate patterns on their frosted crusts. A few moons wander farther out, their orbits stretched into long ellipses. They travel close to their planets for part of the cycle, then drift far away into colder, quieter space. These long journeys give them seasons of light and darkness, even though they lack atmospheres to carry warmth. Their cycles unfold with unhurried grace. And through each distant path, their presence remains steady, a quiet companion moving through ancient night.
Some moons hold faint traces of ancient atmospheres, not thick enough to stir wind, yet present enough to let delicate particles drift for a moment before settling again. These thin envelopes behave more like quiet veils than true atmospheres, soft layers that respond gently to light and shadow. A few moons glow faintly when charged particles strike their surfaces. This subtle luminescence is not a strong shine, but a whisper of light, a muted shimmer like frost under moonlight. The glow fades quickly, yet it leaves behind a sense of hidden activity beneath the still exterior. Other moons hide canyons so deep that sunlight touches them for only a short time each orbit. When the light arrives, it slips gently down the walls, illuminating layers of ice and rock in soft gradients. And when the shadow returns, the landscape rests again in quiet darkness, unchanged and undisturbed. Some moons are shaped by long, gentle cooling cycles. As their interiors cooled, the crust contracted, creating patterns of ridges and shallow fractures. These features resemble dried clay, but on a scale vast and ancient, formed not by sun and air, but by time's patient hand. A few moons drift at the outer edges of gravitational families, following distant paths while still remaining bound to their parent planets. They move like calm wanderers, never straying too far, yet never drawing close enough to feel the stronger tides within. Their orbits are quiet statements of independence in a universe guided by gravity. Some moons rotate slowly enough that a single day can last for dozens of Earth days. During these long periods of light or shadow, the surface changes color by the smallest degrees, responding gently to the slow accumulation of warmth or cold. Nothing sudden happens, only gradual transitions, soft as dusk blending into night.
Some moons drift through regions where particles from the solar wind collect in patchy layers. These layers settle softly, like powder brushed across stone. They give the surfaces a muted, velvety texture, especially in places where countless grains have accumulated over time. A few moons move so slowly, relative to their planet's rotation, that delicate arcs of light sweep across their surfaces in long, silent glides. These moving lines shift with patient grace, tracing the curvature of the terrain, revealing subtle ridges and shadows that remain unseen in harsher illumination. Other moons are held in place by three-way gravitational relationships. Two larger bodies guide them through intricate paths, keeping them stable with gentle pushes and pulls. This equilibrium is fragile but enduring, a quiet demonstration of how balance can emerge even from complex forces. Some moons are built from loosely held rubble, not solid rock. Their interiors are porous, filled with gaps where material gathered softly rather than fused. These rubble pile moons absorb impacts gently, their flexible structure cushioning the blow so the surface remains calmer than it might otherwise be. A few moons contain minerals that react subtly to sunlight, darkening or lightening over long stretches of time. These slow changes create faint patterns on the surface, shadows that seem to shift even when nothing moves, textures that deepen as centuries pass. Some moons carry orbits that tilt gradually with each passing millennium. This slow drift introduces tiny variations in how sunlight reaches them. The changes are so gentle that no single era notices, but across eons, the moon experiences a calm cycle of shifting seasons, quiet as drifting snow.
Some moons share space with delicate arcs of plasma wrapped around their parent planets. These charged regions respond to the moon's presence, forming faint disturbances that ripple outward slowly, like soft rings expanding across a still pond. Though invisible to the eye, their influence extends far, reminding us that even silence can leave gentle traces. A few moons have basins filled with ancient ice that may once have been liquids. These frozen plains hold no waves now, only faint ripples left from long-vanished movement. The ice preserves the memory of earlier warmth, holding it quietly beneath layers of time. Other moons lie so far from their planet's warm glow that they are heated mainly by the faint background warmth of the solar system itself. This gentle temperature keeps their surfaces stable, allowing fine frost to settle evenly across their landscapes. The result is a quiet uniformity, a surface smoothed by patience alone. Some moons spin faster than their orbits would suggest, creating slight bulges around their equators. These shapes develop gradually as centrifugal force nudges the material outward. The bulges are subtle, barely visible, yet they shape the moon's balance, helping it turn gently through the dark. A few moons carry fractures filled with bright material that reflect sunlight easily. These pale lines cut across darker ground, glimmering softly when the angle is right. They form natural maps, quiet pathways drawn across the ancient crust. Some moons have faint echoes of magnetic fields left from earlier eras. These relic fields do not guide storms or winds. They simply drift around the moon's surface, soft reminders of a warmer, more active past. Like distant memories, they linger quietly, touching the world without altering it.
Some moons carry subtle variations in their density. These shifts cause them to wobble gently as they spin, a slow, rhythmic motion that remains stable over long periods of time. The wobble creates small differences in how sunlight falls, producing a soft interplay of brightness and shadow. A few moons experience very slow landslides, where grains of ice and dust creep down slopes millimeter by millimeter. No rush, no sudden movement, just a steady reshaping guided by gravity's quiet hand. These slow flows leave soft trails behind, marking the passage of time without disturbance. Other moons hold ridges that run like long frozen waves across their surfaces. These ridges formed when internal stresses eased, letting the crust shift gently outward. They rise only slightly, but they stretch for miles, creating patterns that resemble ripples on a calm sea. Some moons orbit so close to their planets that faint electrical currents flow through their surfaces. These currents generate subtle heating, barely noticeable, yet enough to keep certain materials from becoming brittle. The warmth spreads slowly, softening the crust like sunlight warming cold stone. A few moons are trailed by streams of particles they've collected from ancient impacts. These loose grains follow the moon's orbit, moving with it like a delicate scarf blowing in a gentle breeze. Though thin and faint, the trail marks the moon's path with quiet elegance. Some moons shift their rotational tilt very slowly over time. As their axes change, new regions receive sunlight for the first time in ages, while others rest in shadow once more. This slow, shifting illumination creates cycles so long they feel almost timeless, soft changes unfolding beneath a patient sky. Some moons display patches of darker terrain where ancient material was exposed by impacts. These regions absorb more light, warming slightly when sunlight touches them. The warmth is faint, but over long periods, it can influence how frost forms, creating soft gradients across the surface. A few moons lie in orbits where sunlight arrives at a delicate angle. This low illumination casts long, gentle shadows that stretch over ridges and plains. The result is a landscape that looks carved in soft relief, subtle and soothing to the eye, as though dusted with thin layers of dusk. Other moons contain materials that release gases when warmed. These gases do not create winds, but they form temporary hazes that drift lazily before settling again. The hazes act like veils, softening the look of the surface and giving the world a hushed, dreamlike tone. Some moons hold small craters with bright rims, rings of lighter material revealed by impacts. These rims glimmer when light strikes them, highlighting the edges with a gentle brightness. The effect is subtle, like thin halos around quiet pools of shadow. A few moons interact with charged particles that fall upon them from surrounding space. These particles alter the chemistry of the surface bit by bit, changing hues across long stretches of time. The transformation is incredibly slow, but the final patterns are smooth and calming, like soft gradients painted over ancient stone. Some moons rotate at just the right pace to create gentle temperature cycles. Their days warm to mild, steady highs, and their nights cool without harsh drops. These balanced rhythms keep the surface in peaceful stability, a quiet breathing pattern written across a frozen world.
Some moons carry gentle color boundaries, where different materials settled over long stretches of quiet time. These borders do not form sharp lines, they blend softly, shifting from pale gray to muted blue or warm beige in slow, seamless transitions. The result is a landscape that feels softly brushed, like watercolor drying beneath calm air. A few moons drift through regions rich with charged dust. As they travel, tiny grains cling to their surfaces, building delicate coatings layer by layer. These coats dull the brighter patches and soften any harsh contrast, giving the moons a subdued, calming appearance, a world wrapped in a gentle, natural filter. Other moons sit in resonant chains, where the orbit of one influences the next, and that one nudges another. It is a quiet choreography, a sequence of subtle pulls that keeps each moon moving in steady timing. Though the forces are small, the resulting harmony is elegant and enduring, a soft rhythm written in gravity. Some moons hold enormous cliffs, their edges carved by ancient cracking and lifting. These cliffs drop for miles, yet they remain utterly still. No tumbling rock, no winds to stir dust, just silent walls rising from shadowed floors, bathed in faint, glancing sunlight that moves like slow fingers across the stone. A few moons lie so close to their parent planets that their skies would be filled with enormous spheres looming overhead. To stand on such a moon would be to feel small and calm, surrounded by a world that fills the entire horizon. Even in imagination, the view brings a soft awe, like gazing at a rising moon on Earth, but magnified beyond scale. Some moons drift through regions where debris is scarce. Their surfaces remain clean, untouched for ages,
allowing the same features to persist unchanged for millions of years. This preservation gives their landscapes a timeless quiet, as though time itself moves gently around them.
Some moons travel on inclined paths that bring them in and out of the shadows cast by rings. With each crossing, their surfaces brighten, then dim, moving through cycles of soft light and gentle darkness. These transitions feel slow and natural, like clouds drifting across a quiet sky. A few moons hold salt deposits buried beneath ice. When fractures expose them, the salts catch sunlight with a faint shimmer, glowing softly against darker surroundings. The brightness is subtle, but it reveals how hidden reservoirs once moved through the moon's interior, leaving behind calm traces of ancient activity. Other moons sway slightly as they orbit, their paths shaped by the uneven distribution of their internal mass. This motion, called libration, feels like a slow nod, a gentle acknowledgement of the gravitational forces guiding their journey. Some moons contain regions where the crust is thin, resting over softer layers beneath. These areas flex with each orbit, rising and falling by tiny amounts. The motion is too small to see in real time, yet over ages it allows the surface to smooth itself out, like a blanket being softly shaken before settling again. A few moons reflect sunlight with unusual efficiency. Their bright surfaces glow even when far from the sun, illuminated by every stray photon that reaches them. Seen through a telescope, they appear like quiet beacons, softly shining in the cold outer dark. Some moons have polar regions where frost collects in permanent shadows. There, sunlight never reaches, so the frost remains pure, untouched since it first settled. These cold, silent pockets hold ancient layers preserved in stillness, like pages of a book left open beneath gentle snow.
Some moons drift so slowly that an entire orbit can take several human years. During this long path, their surfaces pass through delicate phases of illumination: faint morning light, soft midday glow, and deep evening shadow, each lasting far longer than any earthly day. This extended rhythm creates calm cycles of warmth and cold, steady and predictable. A few moons carry internal oceans kept warm by tidal heat. These hidden seas rise and fall as the moon flexes gently, moving like slow tides under a frozen sky. Though sealed beneath ice, the water shifts patiently, a quiet reminder that activity can flourish even in deep cold. Other moons have surfaces made of extremely fine powder, ground down by countless tiny impacts. This powder lies so lightly that each grain seems barely attached. Yet without wind or storms to disturb it, the layer rests in perfect stillness, soft as sifted flour spread across ancient stone. Some moons linger near regions where magnetic fields bend gently. These bends guide charged particles into graceful arcs that skim the moon's surface. The interactions create faint glows, barely visible, like distant lightning seen through layers of fog. A few moons spin backward relative to their orbit, rotating in a direction opposite to most other moons. This retrograde motion likely resulted from a capture event, a slow settling into a gravitational embrace after wandering alone. The motion looks unusual, yet it remains balanced and steady, a calm acceptance of a new celestial home. Some moons reside in distant, lonely regions where even starlight arrives as a thin whisper. There, the darkness deepens, soft and complete, allowing the surface to rest untouched in the quiet of cosmic night.
Some moons show subtle streaks on their surfaces, long lines formed by charged particles moving across icy plains. These streaks develop slowly, and each one acts like a soft signature of the surrounding space environment, written gently over thousands of years. A few moons harbor subsurface caverns created when ice melted and refroze long ago. These caverns remain silent now, empty chambers that echo with nothing but their own stillness. If one could stand inside, the quiet would be deep and soothing, like the calm of a winter cave untouched by wind. Other moons have equatorial belts made of darker materials. These bands, formed as fine grains, migrated slowly under weak gravitational sorting. The belts are not sharp, but blurred and soft, stretching around the moon like gentle rings painted against pale ground. Some moons tilt enough for sunlight to slide across their poles in long, graceful sweeps. During certain seasons, the light lingers for weeks, creating a continuous glow that softens shadows and reveals textures usually hidden. It is a peaceful illumination, a slow sunrise that never quite ends. A few moons are so small that their gravity barely holds their surfaces in place. If one walked there, even gentle steps might send tiny grains drifting upward before settling again. Yet, in the absence of wind, the grains return quietly, falling straight down like the softest snowfall. Some moons travel in highly elongated orbits, speeding up near their planet and slowing as they drift away. These changes in speed create gentle variations in the moon's shape and temperature. Nothing abrupt happens, only small shifts, soft responses to gravity's steady pull.
Some moons glide through regions where faint trails of gas escape from their surfaces. These gases form thin envelopes that drift outward and fade into space. The layers are so light they behave more like mist than atmosphere, wrapping the moon in a soft, temporary glow before disappearing. A few moons have surfaces laced with long ridges that circle the world like gentle rings. These ridges formed as the crust expanded slowly, pushing upward in calm, steady arcs. From afar, they appear as faint patterns, quiet signatures of ancient internal change. Other moons move close enough to dense rings that the rings cast subtle shadows onto their surfaces. These shifting shadows stretch across plains and slopes, moving slowly as the moon continues its orbit. The effect is serene,
like watching clouds drift across a quiet landscape in slow motion. Some moons contain pockets of ancient warmth preserved deep within. The warmth rises gently, influencing the chemistry of the surrounding layers. Over long eras, these reactions create soft variations in color, a quiet evolution written inside stone and ice. A few moons orbit in near-perfect circles, experiencing little variation in distance or temperature. Their cycles are stable, predictable, and soothing, a gentle repetition that keeps the surface in enduring calm. Some moons drift at the edge of their planet's influence, balanced between remaining bound and drifting away. Their paths represent the quiet boundary between belonging and freedom, a delicate place where gravity's touch is soft but persistent.
Some moons drift near regions where the solar wind brushes past them, leaving faint trails of altered particles behind. These trails spread softly, diffusing into space like gentle smoke rising into cool night air. Though invisible to the eye, they tell a quiet story of constant, delicate interaction. A few moons hold layered surfaces, built from slow cycles of frost settling and sublimating over millions of years. Each layer forms thin sheets that rest lightly upon one another, recording eras of gentle change the way tree rings capture quiet seasons. These layers remain undisturbed, protected by the deep calm of a world without storms. Other moons show evidence of long, ancient cracks that once shifted as their interiors cooled. These cracks widened slowly, letting faint gases escape in soft breaths. Though the gases have long faded, their shapes linger, silent, still, etched like calm rivers across a resting landscape. Some moons glide through regions of overlapping gravity, where the pull of the planet and the tug of the sun balance in soft competition. In these places, their orbits feel slightly stretched, like gentle tension held quietly in a thread. The motion remains stable, but the path carries a subtle elegance. A few moons are touched by faint radio waves generated by their parent planets. The waves have no sound in vacuum, yet the energy they carry creates minute changes in particle motion near the surface. Nothing dramatic occurs, but the interaction adds a quiet hum of activity to an otherwise still world. Some moons sit at the edges of their gravitational families, linked to their neighbors through slow, rhythmic pulls. Their interactions shape the group, maintaining order through the softest of forces, gravity whispering across empty space.
Some moons experience soft thermal tides beneath their icy crusts. As they move closer and then farther from their parent planets, their interiors warm and cool in gentle cycles. The heat flows slowly, creating faint currents in hidden layers. These movements are subtle, but they carry a sense of quiet persistence. A few moons hold regions covered in tiny reflective grains. These grains glisten when sunlight strikes at low angles, scattering brightness outward like a thin spray of shimmering frost. From afar, the surface looks calm and powdery, a soft sheen resting on ancient ground. Other moons travel through zones where particles gather into faint arcs. As the moon passes through, it gently disturbs the grains, sending them drifting in slow spirals. The patterns shift without hurry, like dust motes gliding in a sunbeam. Some moons have small basins where frost accumulates more easily than elsewhere. These pockets remain cooler, shielded from sunlight, and gradually deepen as frost layers build. The basins become soft bowls of pale brightness, quiet corners of a frozen world. A few moons are marked by ancient ridges that extend for great distances. These ridges formed when internal pressures eased, allowing the surface to relax outward. Their gentle curves suggest slow processes, patiently unfolding over countless ages. Some moons drift in gentle alignments with their planet's magnetic field. As they move, the field wraps around them like a soft cloak, guiding charged particles into arcs that trace their quiet presence. It is a silent interplay, subtle yet continuous.
Some moons show hints of buried structures, layers beneath the surface with slightly different densities. These hidden formations influence the moon's motion, causing slight wobbles as it travels through space. The effect is calm and stable, a gentle sway in an otherwise steady orbit. A few moons have regions with unusually smooth terrain. These areas formed when ice softened long ago, flowing slowly before freezing once more. The surface appears polished, softly rounded, as if shaped by careful hands over patient centuries. Other moons lie close enough to their planets that the planet's reflected light illuminates their night sides. This faint glow, called planetary shine, bathes the dark hemisphere in soft, muted light. Shadows melt away, and the world appears draped in a permanent twilight. Some moons carry delicate tension zones within their crusts. These areas may still flex slightly as the moon rotates, producing quiet, slow adjustments in the structure beneath. No quakes shake the surface, just tiny shifts spread over ages, gentle as the settling of old wood. A few moons drift in orbits where the sunlight arrives through long, shallow angles. The light skims the terrain, casting extended shadows that move slowly across the ground. The effect gives the world a peaceful texture, like the glow of dawn holding steady for hours. Some moons sit within faint dust clouds produced by ancient impacts. As they move, they gather thin coatings of these drifting particles. The layers soften the surface, muting colors and creating an appearance of calm, velvety quiet.
Some moons contain pockets of extremely bright ice formed under unique pressures. When sunlight touches these areas, the brightness spreads outward like a soft reflection off fresh snow. The glow does not dazzle, it simply rests gently on the surface, making the terrain feel peaceful and pure. A few moons drift in elongated ovals,
their orbits carrying them through varying temperatures. During close approaches, their surfaces warm slightly, loosening grains of frost that shift in tiny cascades. When they retreat, the cold returns, settling everything into stillness once more. Other moons reveal small, ancient fractures that filled with darker material from below the crust. These lines trace delicate patterns across pale plains, creating soft contrasts that resemble ink strokes drawn with a gentle hand. Some moons travel near thin rings made of fine dust. As they pass, they draw tiny waves into the ring material, soft ripples that travel outward and fade slowly. These waves are quiet signs of the moon's passing, like footprints impressed lightly in sand. A few moons contain cores that cooled unevenly, leaving subtle variations in magnetic influence. These variations shape the behavior of particles near the surface, carving faint patterns in the surrounding space, patterns too soft for eyes, but clear in sensitive instruments. Some moons wander just inside the boundary where escape becomes possible. Their orbits are stable, yet wide enough to feel the vastness beyond their planet's grasp. This delicate balance gives their journeys a quiet sense of freedom, a calm dance on the edge of open space. Some moons glide through regions where faint electric currents move through charged particles nearby. The currents do not touch the surface, yet they leave quiet influences, slight shifts in the patterns of dust and plasma around them. These subtle effects create a soft halo of activity, a gentle reminder of the moon's presence. A few moons hold plateaus formed by long ago upheavals. These wide, level plains rise above surrounding terrain like calm mesas in a frozen desert. They catch sunlight evenly, glowing with a soft steadiness that contrasts with the shadows resting below. Other moons possess unusual rotational rhythms. Some turn faster than expected, some slower, each following a pattern shaped by past events, impacts, gravitational nudges, and ancient captures. These rhythms bring individuality, a quiet sense that each moon carries its own gentle history. Some moons drift through faint debris streams left from distant collisions. As they pass, they sweep thin arcs through the drifting grains, creating calm pathways in the surrounding dust. The trails do not last long, but for a moment, they reflect the moon's motion with a soft, delicate clarity. A few moons contain layers of crystalline ice formed under slow pressure changes. These crystals scatter light in muted hues, pale blues, soft grays, touches of gentle rose. The colors shift subtly as the angle changes, painting the surface in tones that feel dreamy and serene. Some moons lie in quiet isolation, far from other companions. Their orbits remain stable, undisturbed, and their surfaces rest in pristine stillness. This solitude gives them a profound calm, as though they drift in personal slumber through the ancient dark.
Some moons reveal terraces built from repeated episodes of frost settling, melting, and refreezing. These terraced layers curve around slopes like gentle steps carved by time alone. They hold no sharp angles, only soft edges that blend into one another with soothing subtlety. A few moons show signs of ancient internal oceans that froze long ago. As the seas solidified, they expanded, creating soft bulges and gentle ridges on the surface. The result is a world marked by slow outward growth, a calm, gradual expansion written into frozen crust. Other moons glide through regions where starlight reflects off distant rings or dust clouds. This reflected light wraps the moon in a delicate glow, offering illumination even when the sun lies far behind. The glow feels borrowed, like a lantern shining with someone else's flame. Some moons contain craters whose rims collapsed slowly over countless ages. These softened edges give the craters a peaceful look, as though time has smoothed away the harshness of impact. Their gentle outlines mirror the calmness of forgotten storms. A few moons drift in perfect synchrony with their planet's rotation. From their surfaces, the planet appears unmoving, a constant giant suspended in the sky. This stillness creates a sense of eternal twilight, a view both majestic and deeply soothing. Some moons orbit within cloud-like regions of dust and ice. The particles drift slowly, moving in calm swirls around the moon's path. Their motion softens the space, creating an environment that feels sheltered, like a quiet cove in the vast ocean of the cosmos.
Some moons display delicate albedo patterns, patches that reflect light differently than their surroundings. These patterns form from the slow interplay of frost, dust, and ancient impacts. The contrasts are gentle, soft gradients rather than abrupt shifts, bringing a peaceful harmony to the landscape. A few moons rotate with slight irregularity, their motion affected by subtle variations in shape and mass. This gentle irregularity creates changes in how sunlight falls, producing shifting highlights across ridges and valleys in a slow, calming rhythm. Other moons contain hidden reservoirs of frozen gases. When sunlight warms the surface, tiny amounts sublimate, forming faint, temporary hazes. These hazes drift upward and dissipate peacefully, adding soft layers to the quiet, airless world before fading completely. Some moons lie close to orbital resonances that nudge their paths with a steady cadence. Each nudge is small, but over long stretches, it keeps the orbit balanced, as though the moon moves to a subtle celestial heartbeat. A few moons hold craters with smooth floors, where ice once melted and refroze. These serene basins shine softly under glancing light, their surfaces calm and level, reflecting pale glows like frozen ponds in a quiet winter field. Some moons drift through regions of space where dust is sparse and sunlight pure. Their surfaces remain clean, allowing gentle tones of gray and blue to shine through without interruption. The simplicity of these worlds brings a sense of deep and peaceful clarity.
Some moons were once part of larger bodies that fractured gently in slow, ancient collisions. The fragments remained bound to the same gravitational family, each one drifting into its own orbit while keeping echoes of the world they once formed. Their surfaces preserve clues to that calm separation, like pages torn softly from a shared history. A few moons contain valleys so wide and shallow they resemble basins sculpted by settling ice. These broad depressions formed slowly as subsurface layers shifted and cooled. The valleys now hold peaceful plains that stretch into the distance with a gentle, muted beauty. Other moons orbit just inside regions where tidal forces begin to rise. The gentle stretching creates small amounts of heat, warming pockets beneath the crust. This warmth drives subtle cycles of melting and refreezing, soft processes that shape the surface without disruption. Some moons drift in delicate balance between two large bodies. Their paths curve just so, guided by the competing poles in a dance that endures with quiet elegance. These moons move steadily, never rushed, never lost, held by forces that remain gentle despite their reach. A few moons have surfaces that darken slowly as solar radiation changes molecular bonds in the ice. The transformation carries no drama, only gradual shifts toward deeper tones, like the slow aging of painted wood. Some moons wander through regions where gas and dust are sparse, leaving their surfaces clean and uncluttered. The simplicity allows every gentle curve and quiet hollow to stand out softly, a world shaped by calmness itself.
Some moons carry faint dents left from very small impacts, marks so shallow they resemble gentle dimples pressed into soft clay. These subtle impressions add texture to the surface without disturbing its serenity, a delicate record of cosmic whispers. A few moons rest in gravitational niches where their orbits remain remarkably stable. These niches act like quiet valleys in space, holding the moons in comfortable patterns that change very little over immense spans of time. The stability feels peaceful, as though the universe cradles these worlds in calm certainty. Other moons experience soft, glancing impacts that scatter fine grains across their surfaces. The grains settle gently, forming thin veneers that mute brighter features. The landscape becomes softer, as though brushed by powder in a slow, careful motion. Some moons shift their orbital tilt through long cycles guided by distant forces. These shifts change how light falls across the poles, allowing gentle variations in temperature and shadow. The changes unfold with quiet patience, too subtle for quick notice,
yet powerful across ages. A few moons reflect sunlight from tiny crystals embedded in icy ground. When light hits them, the crystals create a soft shimmer, like frost catching moonlight on a winter morning. The effect is gentle, dusty, and calming. Some moons drift far from the warmth of the inner planets. Their surfaces glow faintly in the cold, holding on to whatever light manages to reach them. They endure without hurry, silent and steady, moving through darkness with ancient grace.
Some moons lie on the outer edges of their planetary systems, traveling through wide arcs that circle far from familiar warmth. Their long, quiet paths bring a sense of deep serenity, a patient drifting through ancient night. A few moons retain just enough internal warmth to allow slow movement beneath icy crusts. These motions create soft bulges, subtle ridges, and gentle shifts in the surface. Nothing violent stirs, only slow breathing in frozen stone. Other moons carry scars from early impacts that have softened over time. The sharp edges faded, the fractured walls settled, and what remains now is a landscape smoothed by unhurried ages. The memories of impact lie quiet and calm, woven into the world like soft shadows. Some moons orbit in such stable patterns that their paths have barely changed since the solar system's youth. These steady orbits feel timeless, held by gravity with a gentle but enduring hand. Their predictability creates a sense of safety, a comfort found in celestial repetition. A few moons drift in regions where light arrives faint and distant. Yet even here, their surfaces reflect a subtle glow, catching whatever brightness the cosmos offers. It is a quiet resilience, a reminder that even far from warmth, a soft shine endures. As our journey closes, the hidden moons settle into peaceful darkness once more. Their calm orbits continue, unrushed, unbroken, steady as breath, beneath a sleeping sky. And as you drift toward rest, may their gentle motion guide your thoughts into deep and quiet dreams. The quiet path drifts toward its final breath now, settling softly, like dusk folding itself across a gentle horizon. Let your thoughts loosen, let the night hold you, and feel the calm settle in slow, warm waves. And if your mind feels a little lighter now, you may leave a gentle thought below. It might quietly guide another wandering soul toward this same little light